It's a big honor to welcome the next speaker. Really veteran guy into sound and music design and everything else. Please welcome Bjørn Jacobsen.
Hello, my name is Bjørn Jacobsen, as it says right here on the screen. I am just a little formal information. It means the bear, son of Jacob. So if you have any problems, then I beat you in every video game. I used to work for a company called CCP Games. I made most of the new stuff in EVE Online and made the prototype for EVE Valkyrie. And now I work for IO Interactive, you know, this small video game company. So today we shall be talking about sound in video games and also as they work in real life, mainly about how we communicate with each other. Sound is originally coming from somewhere where it's all about how to warn others because we can scream, but we can also be warned because we can hear. It's used in many types of media, like film and video games, usually to support the visuals. Just for many, it's just a background ambience, and in many films, it's like a luxury. And I know a lot of sound designers who do games who don't give a damn about the actual possibilities of sound in video games. They just add it so that it adds to the ambience. And I really disagree and actually get kind of angry if they don't explore into all this, because I believe that sound is an equal amount of information to any graphical UI or physical element, the controller that vibrates, everything you see. It may inform you about everything in the game on an equal level to that. Before we move on, we had to copy the slides, so I'm also going to Alt-Tab out to play all my examples, which could have saved me a couple of hours to do. But, sound is subconscious, means that it's different from your eyes. You can close your eyes, but you can hold your ears, but your sound, your hearing will still be active. Even when you sleep, it's theoretically or practically possible to actually be told things while you sleep and then still remember them when you wake up. Your brain automatically filters out stuff that you don't need, or you believe that you don't need, but you will still actually hear it. So sound can be used for many things, because if we take advantage of that your brain knows, but you don't know, then it can be a very powerful tool. So communication between people, animal, objects, it can help us, it can guide us, it can do a lot of things, and it can change our behavior. Typo right there. Let's talk about sound as communication between us. The PowerPoint copying also messed up my beautiful lines in the ASCII art. I'm such an graphical artist. We can have a monologue, which is what I'm having to you right now. We can also have a dialogue where we discuss things together. It actually doesn't have to be a discussion. It can just be talking between us. A consultation, I may ask you a question and you reply back to me. And registration, which means that I actually just pick up information about you without you knowing. Who cares? Who cares? NSA doesn't. So this is a movie, which is actually fairly boring if you ask me. Linear media, just a continuous stream of information, of sound and visuals and everything, straight from the medium to the player. No, to the audience in this case. Yeah. Damn. Anyway, if communication is between, instead of a medium and an audience, now let's call it a player and a game. You say something and you get something in return. You may say something like, what the fuck, to that, and it returns even more in stuff you don't understand. But you may register the audiovisual content that you see or hear. You may come up with a counter reaction. The game engine registers your reaction, creates another reaction, changes the audiovisual content, and you get this new thing. This is theoretically just a dialogue between man and machine. Wonderful Kraftwerk album. But we may also have a consultation. The only problem with consultation is that it's often in video games used by QuickTime events, which I know every gamer just loves, right? I personally hate them, and there will be a massive rant later about this. It could also be a registration. The game engine may register all your behavior and everything you do and may not even tell you about it. It may even change stuff in the sound or the graphics without you knowing, which is a perfect way of actually giving you information that you have no clue exists. Music that changes because you're, I don't know, tired or you played for too long. You may not know that, but if it actually did, it's indirect information to you that you could actually use if you knew what it was about. So this little cycle of talking between man and machine, I didn't come up with this. I stole it from a book, but it's a very nice quote. It's called "Listen, Think, Speak, and Repeat," and it goes like this. You think, well, some people do, and you speak, and maybe you shouldn't, but the computer listens, and it thinks, and it speaks, and it's a little easier, but you press X to dig, or press triangle to win because of those QuickTime events. The computer reads it and puts this amazing stuff on the screen and in the speakers. You look and listen. You change your behavior because of that. So here comes the alt tapping, which goes. This is a perfect example of something that most players will know, and they will also know the next thing that happens. And just think about it for a second. What happened? And you didn't even have to look at the screen when it happened. Let's just enjoy it for a second. If you don't know this game, you really, really should try and figure out what it is. But this game is an old classic, and there's tons of musical changes in this game that might actually tell you more than you think. And it's a very primitive example, but that doesn't make it more right at all. So when this happens, we don't even have to see more than that. Can anyone tell me what just happened when the music changed? Yes, time is running out and you have to run. You don't even have to look at the timer. You don't even have to know. Actually, you have to be a pretty bad Mario player to actually experience that scenario. But still, it's something that happens when time is running out. And you don't have to look at the timer to figure out that happens. So this is a great example of stuff changing in game. And you may not think of it as an informant, but you were actually straight up informed that time is running out just through the sound. So here's another example about how we use it in our real world to communicate with things. This is a much better example of, instead of information from a video game, it's a consultation between me and Drywall. Yeah. Drywalls are super exciting, and they provide us massive information about our existence and the meaning of life, 42 and everything. So let's go here. Doesn't actually show anything. No. Anyway, there's a very nice.
Sure.
Yeah, stand in the middle of it. Oh, it actually works.
It shows that you.
It's there.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
I didn't even know this technology existed.
I'm going to show you how to drill and fix to a plasterboard wall. First and foremost, make sure it's a plasterboard wall. By tapping on it, getting a hollow sound, we know it's plasterboard. Plasterboard wall. By tapping on it, getting a hollow sound, we know it's plasterboard.
You get it now?
Plasterboard wall.
By tapping on it.
Getting a hollow sound, we know it's plasterboard. Plasterboard wall. By tapping on it, getting a hollow sound, we know it's plasterboard. Plasterboard wall. By tapping on it, getting a hollow sound, we know it's plasterboard.
Yeah, we get it now.
Plasterboard wall.
It's a wonderful website, by the way. So how do I get this back here to this monitor? Help me. No, opposite monitor. Oh, anyway, this guy, he taps a wall to figure out what kind of wall it is, but you can also tap a wall to figure out where is the hollow spot, where can you drill. It's a perfect example of everyday consultation between man and drywall. Super exciting, you know. But we have other examples you can be tapping on. There's other meta examples. Let's go back here. Will it do the same thing again when I tap out? Let's see. Here we go. No. Okay, so I have this great example of very, very indirect information. And it's not really it's more, this is the wonderful street of Amsterdam. No, there's no picture. It's a sound speak. It's a wonderful example of, because usually I walk with my phone like this, so actually I don't give a shit about what's happening around me. I just listen to these clicks and then you walk. Very safe, super safe. This is a perfect example of how sound changes our everyday life and how it's been helping, in this case, of course, blind people. But stop. Just don't want it to continue to the next one. It helps blind people cross the street, but I think it helps seeing people just as much because it's important to listen instead of just seeing. We have a view of a floor in your average video game. The blue tiles represent the sound of regular wood, and in here we have the sound of hollow wood. Why is this such a big difference? Because if you were actually listening to the game you were playing, you would know that the treasure is dug right here, and that's where to dig. And why is this so important to modern games? Because I think that modern games are really, really, really making players more stupid than they are. Because in old games, you'd have to figure everything out by yourself. And today, we get this, you know? Press X to dig, press X to win, press triangle to do that, and sit down and orders and everything. And every player I know dislikes the information that pumps into their face with a graphical unit and just says, do something to continue. You don't even have to think for a second. If somebody remembers an old game called, this is not old, but if someone remembers the game that this basically rips off, which is old Pirates from Sid Meier's back in 1986, then you were able to disembark, walk on a beach, and you only had to have a map. Of course, there was no sound back then, but you only had a map. You only had a visual indicator of where perhaps to dig. You had to figure out which button to press yourself. Here, you walk on the beach, and then it says, "There's the treasure. Dig." There's actually no challenge in it, and they don't even want you to find them all to get all the trophies, which is really bad. But we could also get rid of this. It's just why do they even bother? Or this? Okay, this is a pretty bad example because this game is a QuickTime game, but still, why do we need these visual examples? It could just tell us press X whenever the controller vibrates, or press something whenever you hear something else. You could be using all these other kinds of information way more advanced than they do today. And you should, whenever you make video games now. Like this. Come on, seriously. Okay, so enough about the rant about it. The thing is, in movies and in video games, we have two types of sound. Not two types of sound, but we have two styles. They are still called non-diegetic and diegetic. Diegetic means if something is part of the frame, totally usable, like the footsteps of me talking, everything like that. If there was a narrator in the background or background music, it would be non-diegetic. I had a teacher at school who claimed that this was also the thing in video game, and there was no other layer of thing going on. I didn't pass that class because I argued with her pretty heavily. So we have awesome diegetics instead. Because the footsteps that change because we need to find where the treasure is. That's direct information to where the treasure is. The music that changes because it thinks you've been playing for too long that may be non-diegetic, but it's still indirect information. The footsteps may still be straight up diegetic, but what if they are informing you, if they're actually telling you about how to progress in the game? Then there's way more information hidden in a video game than some linear medium just pumping audiovisual content into your face. Now, I used to work on this video game, and this was the typical comment whenever I posted new features on the forum. People were like, your stuff. Yes, it does, and thanks for asking. So we had this problem. People played without sound. People didn't turn it on. Was it bad? Was the sound actually, was it bad? Was it useless? Yes, it was, very much. My predecessors didn't think much about implementing tactical features into the game. So, and at that time we had some statistics that showed that only 60% of every EVE player in 2011 played with sound on, which is a rather low count. So we had a brainstorm on this. Well, technically, I had a brainstorm because I was the sound designer on EVE for 2 years. So we came up with a solution to add tactical information to wherever you are, so you can hear when people decloak close to you, or if people enters the system that you're in. You know when danger is near. You know how many people is in the system just by listening to the music. You can also, when you play, there's a tiny hacking mini game where you can listen. When you hover the nodes that you're supposed to click, there's a sound that actually tells you what is the risk of this node before you click it. We didn't tell the players, it's just there. It took players about a year to figure out that was the way it worked, but it was there. So we went from 65% in 2008, and it was about 68 in 2011 when I started, and we took it to 92% in 2014 when I left the company. Good time to leave, when they're on the top. And here comes more alt tapping. Is an example of how EVE works. There is you have a scanner that scans outer space, like your average sci-fi movie. It comes up with information about where are the nodes in space, and you can actually hover these. And does it work? No, it's not showing. Yeah. Just move it over here, man. There we go. Wonderful game, by the way. You should play it. $10 a month. Two different nodes. There will be more resistance in the one to the right than the one to the left. We didn't tell the players that we put this in, but it was there. So over here we have another one. This is a very typical hacking mini game where you have to hack your way through a system. The only problem is that they just made it so difficult that now they tweaked it so that you usually don't have enough hacking skills to go over all the nodes. You actually have to find the right way straight away. So we came up with the solution that you can hover the nodes, and then it will tell you by listening. You don't know which sound does what, but you'll have to figure it out. This sound will tell you what's the risk of clicking this node before you actually click it. It's very subtle, by the way. And it's not this video. So which one to click? Nobody tells you which one, but this is information about which one to click. I didn't write this down, and I think a number of players tried to come up with a solution onto how to do it, but nobody came up right yet. But that's because I also know the algorithm behind it. And in AAA games, yes, it does very much. The company that I'm currently working for used to. They They do. But, they made a game called Hitman Absolution, which has this wonderful UI element that shows you from which direction the NPC is about to see you. But it also has a sound, which is that sound, if you play on the highest difficulty setting, is the only thing you have to help you. So if you know your level well enough, you can actually have a choreography, and then whenever you hear the noise, you know it's my time to duck or move or change my direction or anything like that. And here is, no, here we go. See, the visual indicator, and there's a tiny sound whenever they see me.
Nobody disturbs Mr. Dexter without our permission. And no.
Hey, how you doing?
Wait, that guy.
So this is on the highest difficulty.
Nobody disturbs Mr. Dexter without our permission. And no, I want this operation to go to see.
Oh, hey, Ashley.
You still know that he sees you.
Yes, sir. Stop showing me. Yes, sir. Copy that. The suspect is heading straight toward us. We won't get a second shot at this.
That was Hitman, but in The Last of Us, this is actually where the video is supposed to be. The Last of Us also does this very much. This is a gameplay that I did on my PS4 on going through the highest difficulty setting, meaning that there's more NPCs and you really have to practice through every level to go somewhere. The thing is, having played it a lot, I know where all the enemies are. So I know whenever I hear the noise of the NPC can see me, I know when to change direction, where to go, and everything like that. So let's try this. And notice the whoo sound in the background every time there's an NPC who can see me but hasn't seen me yet. Work.
How many of our guys were killed?
I just want to finish up and go home. Freezing my ass off. Shit.
Okay, where do I go? Where'd they go?
And don't forget to pick up collectibles when you're wet. It's very important when you're recording professional material like this. And trust me, this took about 5,000 tries before I got this right.
Where is she?
Yay. To the end of the level. And unfortunately, I have never been able to avoid not getting spotted here at the end. But their NPCs are usually a pretty bad shooting, so. Woo! If you haven't played this game, you, by the way, should, because it's really good. So, in Batman Arkham Asylum, I actually don't have, I think, I have a video of this. But actually, if you've played this game, it is actually possible. There's a small sound whenever a combo on a current target is over, meaning that you can actually play with your eyes closed. Because it'll be like, it's there. And it's great. Because you can fight with your eyes closed. The only problem is you can't hear if you're about to be attacked. So you still have to look, but it still makes a great indicator of that you're fighting. You can concentrate on actually watching and only listen for the bass sound. You don't even have to care about what's there, what's the background music or anything like that. You only have to concentrate about that specific sound. And let's see. There's supposed to be some really awesome logos of Facebook and stuff here.
Okay, we have some small time questions. Any questions for Bjørn? Yeah, up there.
Go ahead.
You talk a lot about the sound that it's one-to-one. The sound is the same, so you report the information. The player knows that this sound means this.
Mm.
What would you do in horror title games where you can take, for example, let's just say Amnesia? I studied it where they had sounds that sounded a bit the same, but in terms of when is the monster there, when is it not there, and when is it just general ambience. It was really great in the start because you wouldn't know what sounds meant what. But between halfway through the game, you would find these small different things between the sounds. So suddenly you weren't so afraid because you knew when this sound plays, oh, there's a monster. But when this sound plays, it's nothing. There's nothing. I can just power through the level. What would you do in terms of trying to keep the player, in this heightened state of awareness, keep him in the horror element, because the more he knows, the less he's afraid, because he knows what is coming. Would you just have tons of sounds recycling, or would it be something dynamically?
If recognizing the sound is the problem, then you shouldn't have the sound. If that is the problem. But if you have, let's say in the case of Amnesia, and the sound is repeated so much that now you know this means the enemy is far away, you should I would have either changed it or swapped the sounds around so that you wouldn't have a clue about which of the sounds meant what in the end, just to annoy the player. That's the sadistic side of game development. But it's a great example of recognition. Once you know the sound, then it's there. But they didn't tell you in the beginning of the game what sound meant what, which is great because then it's indirect, but you still use it as information. And it's not just something that's there because then the monster sounds cool. Like in especially the later Dead Space games, there's the sound of a monster, okay? But that's when the monster is right here in front of you, There's no indicator that the monster's there earlier. So, more
questions?
Yes. Jacob?
Is this kind of conveying information to the player, is that really the enemy of immersion? Because you will learn to recognize the sounds, you will learn the systems, which is what they're supposed to do, and that will always kind of ruin immersion along the way. How can you keep that relationship kind of fresh and along several hours? I don't know how to do that.
No, me neither. But if it ruins immersion, then perhaps the player recognizes the stuff too easy, or the game developer has not thought about how often is something repeated. I think it's a fine balance in the aesthetics of the game development to limit the amount of voices thrown at you and how often they are. In my previous game, Eve Valkyrie, we took very much advantage of some of the information that we got from warplanes. That how do they warn you about enemy coming in, missile coming in, you've got a lock on, you're low on fuel, you're about to eject into outer space, of course, and lots of other things. How do you do that? And what they do in warplanes is that they have certain sounds within certain frequency ranges, and then they never play at the same time, which is one way to avoid confusion and making the sound annoying. But if getting too used to a sound and recognizing a pattern will ruin immersion, then it's no good. But depends on how much immersion you want into your game.
Okay, you're gonna have the last question now because it's getting hot in here.
Take up all your
Yeah.
So it's normal for players to play their own music, like while they're playing a Steam game, they put on iTunes, and even now.
It's very wrong.
Like, what are your feelings that as an audio designer? Because that must be a challenge to work with.
Very much, very much. In Eve, we had this problem that people did that because we even had a jukebox in the game that you could play. And then my boss, just when I was hired, was so annoyed with it that he removed the jukebox. And that was in every audio feature request that the players had. It was like, bring back the jukebox. They didn't care about sound or anything like that. They just wanted the jukebox back. But yes, that's very annoying. But that also tells you something about that your music in your game is just a layer of luxury ambience that can be taken out. If you make it important to your gameplay, then of course you can't make sure that every player does it. But if you make your music important, if you make the sound important, like if sound is not important, people play with it off. The same with visuals. If you didn't have to see, then you might as well turn off the monitor. So how I deal with it, I would either make the music so awesome that you would play it even when you're not playing the game, or I would make sure that it's really, really important to the game, or of course just remove the turn down volume button. but you can't really solve it, because if players want to play with sound off, then they should.
I think Fallout 3 and GTA
Yeah.
found a pretty good way of doing it.
Yeah, by the radio in the car.
Universe by using the radio. So like, if you want to hear the radio parts, you have to listen to the music until you get to the radio part.
Yeah.
You're like forced to do it.
Can you do that in Fallout 3? Can you listen to your own music in Fallout?
There's a radio, I think. There's like really old tunes.
Another good reason to play that game again. Yeah, I think in GTA, even in GTA 3, they have that, where you can copy your own files over and listen to the radio in the cars, which is a really cool feature if you got tired of the same radio speaker over and over again. But that's also because the music in GTA is not very important to the gameplay. It's a cool feature, but it's not important. If it was important, I'm pretty sure a lot of players would use it.
Okay, give me a big hand. Bjørn. Thanks, Bjørn. And now